Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you all for coming today. I hope that this message will not offend anyone, and hopefully it will have some positive effect on others. I will let you determine that, and if you like it, please let me know, and if you don't like it, don't tell me. I am really not sure what brought me to this subject, original sin. I think it's somewhat, we've been studying in our Sunday school about the Old Testament, and it just, the dichotomy and that I have found that in the class of the information, we're studying the Old Testament, but what does it represent and what does it mean metaphysically, and how does it affect us today and spiritually, and as men of practical means. It seems, what are the myths? Gosh, it's just so overwhelming, the misinformation, the spin, as our president today says, fake news. Whether you agree with them or not, everybody has their own perception of how things are and were, and we don't mind putting our spin on it. And that's what I'm doing today. I'm putting my spin on things today, and it's on original sin. I hope that's not a sin. There are definitely a multitude of concepts and approaches to this subject. So I'm just going to start kind of with my perception. In my understanding, it's a very ambiguous term, because there are so many concepts to it, so many different approaches to it, ideas, descriptions, and for one thing, I believe that God is absolute and never changing, and pretty simple concept to follow. And original sin does not follow any of those. In the framework of Orthodox Christianity, original sin is portrayed as, and these are just a few, man's fall from grace, the fall of man, born in sin, born of sin, unpardonable sin, eternal sin, original fault. And I apologize to any scholars and theologians out there if I left out an incorrection. For me, all these reflect a state of consciousness, not reality. In divine reality or absolute truth, our consciousness is a state of oneness, love, and truth of who we are, a divine extension of our Creator, the divine I Am. A Course in Miracles alludes to it as a lack of love, and also as original fear and guilt. And however you choose to perceive it, I think we can all agree that it either creates a sense of separation or we are separated from the love of God. And those have some truth in them also. All of this has, I think everything in life has some small bit of truth in it. And then we take it, we run with it, and we do all kinds of things with it. Whatever fits our consciousness, our perception, our reality. I'm not going to go in great detail about this concept and how it got started and is portrayed in the Bible. I think the program makes it pretty clear. Just look at the front. And that fruit could be anything. That fruit could be a banana. But I understand now that banana, if it's a banana, it's for the elderly. So I was just like, okay. I guess I must be getting older and don't know it. Because I like the banana aspect. So anyway, I'm digressing. Most of us all know about the story of Adam and Eve, the serpent, and how Eve was deceived by the serpent, and God ended up cursing, condemning Adam, Eve, the serpent, and all the offspring from them for perpetuity. I like that word, perpetuity. That means forever. And it really sounds a lot like my mother. My mother had a tendency to ground us, and everyone, just not me, everyone that just happened to be around at the time, and would ground us and forever. It seemed like forever, even though it usually was 30 days, and then it ended up being one day. It wasn't as bad as what we thought. And in this case, it holds true to the story of Adam and Eve and the serpent. It's not as bad as what we think. We always make things worse than what they have to be. Why? I don't have a clue. There are a lot of different schools of thought on this subject, but all of them pretty much reach the same conclusion. Man is separate from God. And that is, to me, the greatest sin that we have created upon ourselves. God didn't do that to us. We did that to ourselves. We were learning in class today that Samson was stupid. Well, I won't go that far and say that about us, but we are ignorant. In unity, I was taught that sin is originally an old archery term, missing the mark. I'd never heard that before. Shows you how ignorant I was, and to some degree still am. Well, as a layman theologian and scholar, I say that very loosely. I can say we have definitely missed the mark on this one. Personally, I can relate to this terminology in my life. I have consistently missed the mark on a lot of things. And no, that's not. But in unity, that's not necessarily a bad thing, is to be missing the mark, or to be sinning, however you choose to put it on yourself, own it. Everyone has to make that call for themselves. When we miss the mark, it's more about not living into our divine makeup or expressing your authentic self, also known as Christ's potential, divinity, I am consciousness. I really like the I am consciousness because it really does make me feel connected and to know, to own who I truly am. We use these so-called mistakes to grow, mature, evolve spiritually, not just as human beings, which it really helps if we learn from our mistakes, but spiritually. We can express and demonstrate from our authentic selves. My interpretation of original sin is the conscious separation we have been taught that exists from the very beginning of man's attempt to understand where he comes from. And it was created from an intellectual point of view, not a spiritual one. It is apparently easier for us intellectually and psychologically for mankind to understand and accept the concept of God and man by separating them and accepting that God is an external source rather than to believe and accept we are divine in nature and extension of God that have not yet fully expressed and demonstrated our divinity. The untruth that we have been taught is what intellectually keeps us asleep. This is original sin. As human beings, we are harder, I speak for myself, because I know a lot of happy people out there, but we are harder on ourselves than anyone. So we don't need God to condemn us. We condemn ourselves. We do a whole lot better job than God does at that. Our understanding of God is definitely evolving as we become more awakened and aware of our Christ consciousness. Jesus demonstrated this understanding over and over and told us we can do the same things as He and even greater things than He. And He also, is it not written in your law, I have said you are gods? This untruth that we are separate from God is perpetuated by our ego, intellect, fear, lack consciousness, and an environment of social despair that does not nurture or support oneness or our conscious connection with our source. Or does it? Think about it. In the Course in Miracles, it talks about evolving consciousness through war, social injustice, lack, Holocaust, religious and ethnic persecution. We are growing tired of these things, and our divine nature will not allow this to go on. Eventually, we will grow through and beyond this consciousness. And as our individual consciousness grows, so does the world. But one of the first steps to evolving is to see and know what we don't want, and then choose different and grow into what we do want. Key word there is grow. And knowing your conscious connection with God is key to this evolution. I want to read a short little verse from Heart-Centered Metaphysics. This is a great book by Paul Hasselbeck. I love it. The only predestiny in life is the ultimate unfoldment of the divine creature you are. But the direction you take in realizing this outforming of the Christ indwelling will always be determined by your consciousness. However, there is a creative intention working in you. It is a force that transcends mistakes and wrong choices and makes all things work for good. It is like an organist who may touch a wrong note and create a dissonance, and who skillfully uses that wrong note as a leading tone by which to modulate into a new key. He or she makes it appear as if the whole progression was intended that way, as if there were the only way it could have been done. You cannot really make a wrong choice, a bad decision. Any step you take will lead eventually to your good, because a negative experience encountered will produce the challenge in which to outgrow the kind of consciousness from which the choice was made, leading to a higher consciousness from which more constructive steps will be taken. So a wrong choice is a right choice at that particular time. Know this: you are free from the fear of bad decisions. What kind of well, that's a concept, isn't it? You can stand still and believe that there is no decision to be made, only a direction to discover. Enjoy the journey. I have been taught to fear the journey because where I will probably end up. Okay. That has been one of my greatest challenges in life, is to learn how to enjoy the journey. Because I'm always worried about making a mistake, messing up. What are you going to think about me? And how am I going to disappoint God? And disappoint myself. Dad, blessed, I can't have you thinking bad things about me. I'm going to leave you with this from the Course in Miracles. And this wasn't taken directly. This comes from my head. But it really resonates with me. So whether it is quoted exactly like this or not, I don't know. This is the way I heard it and read it or received it. God does not forgive because God does not condemn. Forgiveness is for ourselves. We have been taught to condemn ourselves. So forgive yourself so you can forgive your brother. And then you will truly know the love of God. Namaste.